Welcome to The Jeweler's View. I'm Courtney Gray. I've spent nearly 30 years in this industry, running schools, doing custom work, coaching, consulting, and working with makers at all stages. Over time, I've started to see the patterns, the things that actually move a creative career forward, and the things that can quietly hold it back. I built this podcast to cut through the noise, less time in your head or down the research rabbit hole, and more time building something real. Let's get into it. Welcome back. Today we're going to dig into something I think a lot of jewelers are trying to hold on to. That connection to the work itself while building an actual sustainable business. I'm here with Stacy King, founder of Lulu Designs. Much of her work comes through experimentation, not sketching, working across bronze, silver, and gold. We're going to talk a little bit today about what it actually looks like to stay in the magic, how creativity evolves, and how tools, process, and play all come together inside an actual real working studio. Stacy, welcome to The Jeweler's View. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Grateful to be here.
Yeah, and I love we get hammering in the background, so we're actually in the studio today, right?
We are, yes, by the masters.
I love it.
Working around me.
You're lucky to have a good team like that.
That's the biggest blessing in my life for the artists I work with.
It's all about that, the community and who we're surrounded with. I want to start with something that stuck with me, the idea of staying in the magic. What does that mean to you right now?
Staying out of your head and being in the moment. I think that in terms of process and becoming an artist from the very beginning, all of us have various backgrounds that bring us to our craft. And it is my experience with what brought me to ceramics was somewhat of a troubled upbringing, and it manifests itself in different ways. And I think being heavily dyslexic in high school and just through my entire upbringing, I grew up in the 60s and 70s where art was not integrated into the curriculum like it is in some schools now. At least kids have the opportunity. And so staying in the magic is really something I was enchanted with when I started diving into ceramics and really feeling at home with being an artist. And I think it's the process that keeps you in tune with the present moment, because all we have is right here, right now. And so when you're in flow, all of the chatter in the head kind of disappears. And that is when there's an opportunity to really create something beautiful. And when you can do that collaboratively, like we do with our team here, it is really something extraordinary. And it's the process that creates the work. It's working with someone else that creates the magic. An immediate acknowledgement, see it in the sparkle in someone's eye, and you're like, oh yeah, I get it. I know what you want to do. Or maybe you think they get it, and then they execute something differently, and you're like, oh no, now you really got it. It's really just being connected to the actual process and the form and the energies and the souls that are actually creating the work. And that to me is the most important thing.
Well said.
Don't be a lone writer. It doesn't work.
Don't try to do it all yourself.
It's very isolating. And I think, unfortunately, and this is what I would say to younger people growing up in this kind of single dimensional world, I became an artist when there wasn't an internet. Okay. I know I look really young.
Yeah, I wouldn't believe that.
and I'm a self-taught jeweler.
Yeah.
Never bought a book. Before I owned a flex shaft, I experimented with the Dremel tool because I was knotting beads at that time because I wanted to make the holes bigger in my gemstones. I can't tell you how many gems I drilled with a diamond bit burr without water.
Right.
And I kept wondering, why do these gems keep breaking? No internet. I was coming at it from this very purist perspective. It was just learning how to do something by failing over and over again. So I think the key is being willing to fail and take the chance and not trying to put a dollar number on your time, because there's so many aha moments that come with failure. It's the whole research and development time. And unfortunately, like with our fast society and everybody on Instagram filming their process, they're putting it on hyper speed mode. Everyone looks perfect, in a 30-second time capsule. And look at this beautiful thing I made in 30 seconds.
Yeah, imaginary.
It's like, come on. Like, I just don't even know if I would even start. First of all, getting down with reality. And now with AI, if you really want to explore what it means to be an artisan and a craft person, and you really want to experience that magic, number one, work in a community of jewelers. If you would like to become a jewelry designer, go work for another jeweler for a significant amount of time, learn about business, be a part of that creative process, and get rid of Instagram. I say that being someone who's on Instagram every day because I'm trying to use it as a creative tool, but I try to not to go down this doom scrolling
rabbit hole.
And luckily I have a perspective to compare my life as a jeweler and as artist from before there was that.
Yeah. This is like creativity in a different era, you know? You've experienced this industry before and after. What feels most different now for you? How do you stay grounded in the magic with all these distractions? You can't exactly turn it off because it does serve the business, right?
I actually sort of regimen my sacred practice.
Nice.
I mean, I have to have a couple of things that I abide by every day, which is number one, I get up when the sun rises. That's just me. I'm not saying that everybody has their magic hour, right? And I start the day with a book in my hand. Immediately, I got to touch paper. I have to see in the natural light. I have to educate myself. I have to keep an open mind. And I'll read poetry, or if I'm reading fiction, it's usually like a Paulo Coelho, like an alchemist type story. I love Annie Dillard. I love reading very nurturing texts that fill up my neural pathways with positivity and presence. And then I do some sort of like physical activity, whether it's yoga or walking or hiking. I need to do all of that, really become grounded in the actual physical world. I'm 80% successful. I don't beat myself up, but if my phone rings in the morning or I get a text from someone, unfortunately, then my phone's in my hand and then it's like all bets are off. Then I'm checking emails or I'm on Instagram. Doing something physical on the earth and in this plane of reality and being grounded in that way, even if it's just like making a cup of tea, like looking out at the cherry blossoms or the rosebuds, and just really getting grounded in the nature of reality of this moment is really important and can set the stage for how the day is going to roll out, because those are the moments, and nobody takes time to do it, that inform creativity.
And we forget
those moments when we're not trying to do anything, but we're just being with what is when something falls out of a tree and it's like a leaf swirling, and then all of a sudden you're on the anvil and you're swirling a piece of metal that looks just like the leaf, and you're like, whoa, man.
Look at
like
that
leaf that fell out of the tree.
Oh, the hippie in you just came out, Stacy.
I
love it. I love it.
Very proud.
One of the things I found really fascinating is that you don't really sketch that much. You let the materials lead, so to speak, right?
I might be one of the few people that received a fine arts degree without taking a single painting and drawing class.
How'd you get away with that?
San Francisco State was a little bit lenient on, you just had to have the fine arts credit. So I took every single ceramic class that you could take and every art history class that you could take to fulfill the requirement. I enrolled in a painting class, dropped out. In a drawing class, dropped out. Being dyslexic, I just couldn't hold a pencil. I still write backwards. You know, using your hands in a way, especially like starting with clay, is a completely different motor skill than drawing. I regret dropping out of those classes. I should have pushed myself to use those muscles. I could always see what I wanted to make. And this is where the collaboration piece comes in. Christina, who has worked with me for 15 years, she actually went to RISD. We have a very close relationship, and she is an incredible artist, and she is a huge part of what Lulu is today. And we're kind of like Laverne and Shirley. Oh, I don't know, realize a lot of people may not know who Laverne and Shirley is.
I know who Laverne and Shirley is.
But we do it together, and she is an incredible illustrator. I mean, she's an incredible jeweler too, but when we started working together on a lot of the design aspects of Lulu, finally I had my pen and paper.
That's perfect.
And then I have other artists that work in the studio that bring their own talents. You know, I get these crazy ideas of what we're going to do, and then I know I got a guy for that.
Right. Yeah. Let's go. Hey, I got a guy for that. I got a guy for that.
Yeah. You know?
Well, it's part of being resourceful, right? You know, you had mentioned like being a latchkey kid and being brought up with some troubles, and you had to get scrappy and resourceful which we'll talk about in the business portion. Like, how do we build this? It makes
Yeah.
me appreciate that about you. So, where does a piece usually begin with you typically? So, if it's just you and you're designing or you're working in the material itself, do you start with the stone? Do you start with the shape? Is it the leaf that fell from the tree?
All of that. It depends on where I'm at with something. A lot of it is informed by my appreciation for ancient design language, symbolism. I'm working on a flower series right now, fabricating some different forms and flowers. We just got a laser cutter. Oh my God, game changer. And I bought the laser cutter so that we could do certain things. So some of this type of forming, it's like we could integrate in the pattern plates. I wanted to be able to make these super thin forms, and I didn't want, my jewelers to have to be sitting there with a jeweler's saw for 6 hours, because I definitely am into instant gratification. And so we bought this laser cutter. And where the inspiration strikes is I was in Mexico and I went to Tasco. What an incredible experience. And I actually went to a production factory there, and they had, I'll have to email you pictures. I mean, they have a full studio and they have every single thing that you could want. And I was like, I want my studio like this. Whatever the job needs, we're going to use that technique. And so I'm inspired by Botanicals. It's a huge, like the lotus, it's our logo. It's just beauty emerging. It's that understanding that like good things take time. I mean, from the time a seed is planted to the time the piece is in bloom, it's a long time. It's months.
Yeah.
Sometimes 9 months. I do love form so much, and that's where I'm very attracted to metal. With some of these forms and some of these old roses that you see in traditional Mexican jewelry, where there's so much fabrication, and that I realized, like, to make this really authentic looking and to pay homage to the masters that came before, like, we're going to need this kind of machine. I'm kind of also feeling that age where I only have so many years left to bring these ideas to the finish line. I'm just going to invest in more equipment now, and also like take a little backseat to buying so many stones, because I say that I will be requesting that my sons build a pyramid for me because of all the because yes, because I have so many gems.
Right,
so it's
right.
really, so it's, in that case, it's the metal. It's working with the metal and the forms. If it's a gemstone, it's sort of just like laying them all out on a piece of paper. And then it's probably something that I've seen before. I like, again, looking at old works, what people do. I actually like using books, going to the library and getting old books about jewelry and technique, and just reading about how people inform. So everything is very much on the subtle subconscious level. And then it's just from, again, doing and interacting with the materials, and all of a sudden something starts to take a form. You have to go into this, when you design like I do, with no expectations. And that's very difficult, because if you don't really have a plan, you have to be very comfortable with wasting time. Right. I mean, one person could call it wasting time. Another person could call it just being present and realizing that this is all an illusion anyway. And in the end, there's really nothing. And so all of these things that we want to accumulate that are going to define us as an artist really do not matter, because eventually this form will be gone, and yes, right, the jewelry will be there and people will not care, and then it'll end up at the flea market, and then someone like me will buy it for $2,
and then it'll get melted down, and then the next person,
and then it'll get melted down,
so
and so it's just like, we can't take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah.
It's just jewelry.
It's not open heart surgery. It's just jewelry.
But I mean, there's a whole nother conversation, though.
Yeah, for sure.
It isn't just jewelry. I mean, what we're doing as artists and as jewelers is we are making memories take form for people. One of the reasons why I love this business is that people will come to me with a piece of jewelry that they've had, like maybe if it's something that I made that is 15 years old, and I'm like, yeah, I need to clean that and polish that, and I never take it off. I love it. It lives with me. It becomes people's identity. It reminds them of a birthday, a milestone, an anniversary. It's this little sacred holder of a moment in time where people feel connected to the present moment. What did that present moment represent when we create jewelry? It not only represents our present moment from the time we actually finished the jewelry, but it represents the present moment of the person that connected with it. And so there's all this energy converging into this little piece of, like if it's a gem, it's billions of years old, holding all the pressure and the light from the earth, or it's from the jewelers touch that metal, what was going through there. It's all energy. It's all energy, man.
It is all energy. And you can feel it. You can feel the intent. It's what you put into it. And I think if we're stressed and we're creating from a place, that goes into it. People feel it. Your customer feels it. When you present work, it's the same thing. If you're presenting with kind of like this intensity of I have to make the sale, or it's this life or death kind of situation, people feel that, right?
And one thing about the emotion, I'm making this sound like, oh, it's so easy to be comfortable, just like going in the moment and process. I mean, I'm in 30 years deep.
Yeah.
With this whole being an artist gig.
There's a little learning curve.
When I first started ceramics, I was not good at all, and I wanted to be good. And for almost a year, I cried every day. Wow. Comparing myself to, wasn't a fast learner.
Right.
Comparing myself to the other people in my class. I cried every day. And I will say that even as a jeweler, when I dove into the jeweler world and I started out as a beater and a wire wrapper, to just get this like contemporaries of mine that were already doing their own casting, already doing their own fabrication, looking at me like I was nothing because I was knotting pearls and wire wrapping, and you're a kitchen table jeweler. And it's just like this total ego trip thing. I still love to bead, but you know what? We fabricate with a press. We use a laser cutter. We cast.
Yeah.
Our stone setters, bezel set, prong set. I want to do it all.
Right.
And you got to have a little equanimity about all of it. And really and truly, the most creative people are the ones that can work with the tools they have and make some very interesting pieces of jewelry. What defines you is your ability to look at something that you want to make and work with what you have and make it the best that you possibly can.
Yeah, really fine-tuning the skills. I think a lot of us buy things and we don't really have the purpose yet or the vision yet. And sometimes it creates the vision. So it's interesting how we think about tools in this industry. How do you think about bringing tools into your studio? I know you brought a press in recently.
Yes, we got the Bonny Doon press about 6 months ago. I met Peter Gilroy at JCK, and I've always wanted a press forever.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't know a thing about it. One of my first reasons for wanting to bring it in was a tool that could like save the jewelers physically, because you can form heavy metal. We're just using bronze and silver and gold, but we make a lot of cuffs. And I really wanted to become involved in making heavier cuffs. The process of making a 6-gauge cuff, just using an anvil just to form it in the shape is backbreaking work. And what if we want to make a lot of them and we still want to make them at an accessible price point? And we don't want to cast them because now silver's $100 an ounce or whatever. Like, we want to just make them to order, or we want to be able to send in our metal for refining. The tools always answer to one of those criteria. Is it going to save us time? Is it going to save us from having to stockpile inventory, another business cash grab? And is it going to allow us to make something in the moment that we're dreaming up right then and there? And the only thing we don't do in-house is casting. Even though we have a lot of pieces that are cast, I don't see going into that. Now we have a laser engraver. We have the Bonny Doon press. We have a laser welder.
But yeah, I love the way you put this. It's like, what problem are you trying to solve? And if it's a consistent enough problem, not just a one-off, then it makes sense to start introducing things like a Bonny Doon press. You had time to play with like time saving and efficiency and explore what it can do beyond.
We are still scratching the surface, and we're still using it as an aid with this forming. That would be like our number one, I would say, day-to-day use of it. And when gold hit 4,000, now 5,000, we make these stacking bands, and we were using these pattern plates, which is really fun. So we didn't have to cast anything. One of the reasons why I invested in the press was because I just didn't want to have to stockpile things that were in gold and silver. And since a lot of our cast designs have botanical patterns and textile patterns, they have an incredible array of pattern blocks. So we're able to make something that looks like it was cast, but actually it's prettier because The detailing of the design is sharper. They also offer custom. So we at some point can get custom coining dies made, which I think we will for certain projects. But it's so nice because, again, we're investing in the people and the tools and not the inventory, which can just become a real cash sink. And I'm finally kind of waking up to understanding how we can invest in people and tools and techniques over materials. The fact that the metals have gone through the roof is really sort of allowing people to push themselves creatively, because it's going to make it very difficult for someone to even be in the jewelry business. A lot of the fluff of people just getting into it just to make money, or they think they can make a quick buck, or they can replicate something they saw. It's going to be pretty expensive to do that if you're not savvy. It's going to be very difficult to do that.
It's definitely changing things. So I have to ask you about your Fun Day Friday that you do with your staff, because I think this is something that we forget and we miss. And you were saying earlier, Stacy, resonates so much with me, and what I try to teach my clients and students is don't monetize this in your mind if you can help it. Keep it playful as much as you can, because a lot of people that are intense about monetizing this and bringing back the return, which makes sense. We're in business, we take it seriously, but it can stifle the creativity. So I love this Fun Day Friday. Tell us about that.
I sort of instituted it when we got the press, because we still do production. We still wholesale to over 20 gifting galleries throughout the country, which is wonderful, and we love that. But I didn't go into jewelry or becoming an artist to make money at all, ever, or to have the business that I have today. It formed itself, you know. I realized that now, being in this very serious business perspective, that just like I have to schedule a day to do XYZ, you have to calendarize some of this experimentation. And so Friday is non-negotiable. It doesn't matter if we're behind on orders or this or that. We have fun, and it's like we're just getting to know the material. The research and development that we're doing right now with the press and the laser cutter, we're using them in tandem, is so unbelievably fun and so incredible, and I love it so much. And there's no agenda. I'm just trying to kind of build a small little collection, and we make a lot of notes. We experiment, we work as a team. You have to have that time when there has to literally be no agenda. I think that's where the tool thing comes in, really and truly, because if you're limited to using the same things that you've always used, you're then getting that habit and that pattern of doing things the same way, because there's a million different ways, as I've known from working with many different jewelers in the years that Lulu has been around. It's interesting how different people will manufacture the same thing and do it totally differently, using completely different tools. It's really made me much happier allowing that space and time to create for the act of creating, and
to stay in the magic, right? That's how we stay in the magic. Yeah. Okay, Stacy, we're going to bring you back for another episode on. I really want to dig into the business side of how did you build this masterpiece of Lulu Designs, and a little bit of the nitty gritty that comes with that. But before we close, if someone listening feels like they've lost that connection to their creativity, what would you want them to remember?
I think number one is stay connected to gratitude.
What a good one. Like if
gratitude
that's all you get from today,
really,
right? Yeah.
Really and truly, we can't take ourselves so seriously. It's just jewelry. We have such a privilege to even be an artist, to even be a maker. If you find yourself in the shoes of being a maker, that means that you have a lot of support.
Yeah, right, around you.
You have a lot to be grateful for. Somehow, some way, if you are living an artist life, that means that your basic needs are probably met. That is not the case for a huge percentage of the population. So it is a privilege to even be able to cry about not being good at ceramics. Oh, wow, that's so hard. You couldn't throw a porcelain vessel. For you. We have an opportunity to fail, to experience, to engage in the process.
Well said.
And don't compare yourself to other people. But I'm saying it to me too. Like I'm talking in the mirror too, right? Because all of those different emotions that come up, and really and truly understanding that those are emotions, are threads that are connected to something very deep within inside your soul. And when you are an artist and when you are creating something, you are exposing your soul. You are allowing yourself to become vulnerable. And that takes huge courage and huge risk. So pat yourself on the back for even being willing to take the chance.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And everything in time. 99% perspiration, 1% inspiration.
It takes
True, though.
time to build something of value.
And
build
that's what I
something
hate about
beautiful.
Instagram. When people are showing the way they just whip up a fabricated whatever. Get off the gram, but I love it.
It's about
just,
batching it
just
out,
another,
segmenting it out and kind of
yeah.
compartmentalizing a little bit, right?
Yeah.
It's like when you're in the creative space, that doesn't really have a place. But when maybe you're researching something or connecting with people, I feel social media is for. But it's not for falling down the rabbit hole of comparisonitis where you're just constantly looking at other people and what they're doing, wishing that you were there when it's not time for you to be there yet necessarily. Like you said, it's been at this for 30 years. You're speaking my language 100%, Stacy. Let's bring you in next week. I want to talk a little bit more deeply. I think what really stands out is that staying creative isn't really about doing more, pushing yourself harder. It's about staying connected to how you work, staying in the magic, giving yourself space to keep discovering. And in part 2, we're going to shift into what it actually takes to build, or what it's taken for you to build, Lulu Designs over time, the business decisions, the pivots. And for me, I'm always like, you have to give up something to get something else, the let go, and what's changing now as you move into the future. For those of you listening, if you've ever wondered how to carry this kind of creativity into a real, sustainable business, we're going to go there next. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Stacy.
Thank you. Pleasure. Appreciate you having me.
I'm glad you're here. This path takes a lot, especially when you're building something of your own. If you want to go deeper, I share key takeaways and additional teaching through my email list at CourtneyGrayArts.com. Keep going. This part matters. I'll see you next week.
Singing bowls and stories untold. Yeah, here's to the dream